November traditionally is a month in which we remember our loved ones, our dearly beloved that have passed away. For me, this is the first year that I have a dearly beloved that has passed away, which is my grandmom, who taught me how to knit and thus paved the way for my deep dive into fiber arts. This video, however, shall not be about her. It'll be about him. Do not worry, I do not have a dead body near me, but no, this is the fleece of Vic. Vic, the zwartbles sheep, who also sadly passed away this year. The bluetongue virus has been rampant in the Netherlands and Belgium, and Vic was one of its victims. You might remember Vic. Vic was one of the 2 zwartbles sheep that provided me with fleece when I did zwartbles during Tour de Fleece. Vic and Mieke were pet sheep, dearly beloved members of a family. So I think it is only normal that now in this month of remembering, I will make something for Vic's owners to remember him with. And here is Vic in all his fine might and glory. He takes up my entire table. He's a big sheep. I am not planning to spin the entire fleece in today's video, but I'm trying to find some really good bits so that the owners have like the best bits of his fleece in yarn. Right? Does that make any sense? I think it does. Yeah, it does. This is like more hairy, also a lot more poopy. So I think this part over here is more suited for our purposes. Also poopy. Huh. Vic, you pooped yourself. Oh, this bit is also really soft. If you had not noticed in any of my previous videos, I am hyping up zwartbles all of the time. Just look at it. I've got my reasons, right? What a pity that this sheep has come to pass, because it's such a gorgeous fleece. I've got a bucket full of fleece. Try and put this back into the bag and see what we'll do with it later. Ooh. Oh, that's a pretty bit. Oh, that's a pretty bit. We've added soap and heat, and now we can scour this fleece. Oh boy, that is one hella dark sheep soup. It's not a particularly warm or sunny day, but I'm hoping that the slight autumn winds will dry this fleece a little bit before we bring it back inside. The fleece is dry, and I think I'm going to card it. Last time I combed the zwartbles fleece, which was scrumptious, delicious, delectable, all the good stuff. But I think right now I want to card it. I am, of course, completely simping over the fleece again. Such gorgeous crimp.
the squish factor on these bats, insane. I actually cleaned my workspace before starting carding these bats. Vic, were you a sheep or actually an alpaca? Because this is dusty, dusty. So is my skirt. Oh my god.
And today is actually All Saints' Day, so let's commemorate this saintly sheep. I think a long draw will be the best way to capture the fluffiness, the springiness, the bounciness, the squishiness of Vic's fleece. That's a first bat on the bobbin. Soft, squishy, black, delicious goodness. I am aware that the presenting of this video might come off as a little bit frivolous on a subject that is rather solemn, for people mourn their animals as deeply as other humans, as their loved humans, their family members or friends. And we have been doing this for ages. The Egyptians mummified and embalmed their cats because they believed they would join us in the afterlife. And I think there are many, many other examples of cultures doing stuff like that to their pets. However, maybe death is always talked too seriously about, while it is a part of life. Is there maybe a little bit too much taboo about death, so much so that we dare not speak about it? Personally, I also am a Roman Catholic. Active in my church even. This might come as a shock to some of you. How is this radical leftist a Roman Catholic as well? Well, I think Jesus's radical advocacy for equality and striving to make the world a better place for minority groups as well, and people who are not the same as you, I think that is something worth following. But as a Roman Catholic, I do also believe that death is not the end. Death is just a temporary goodbye. And then there is something. What there is, I will only know when I die myself, I guess. Right now, I kind of imagine it as some kind of unification with everything. If my words made any sense. That's how I kind of imagine what happens after you die. You get taken up into everything. That was a little serious talk about death.
So I just finished spinning 2 bats and the carnage of naps all over here. Naps, 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 naps. Put on an extra layer of wool because it's getting rather cold in here. It's November after all. Anyway, I'm plying and actually something weird has happened with spinning this yarn. While I was finishing up my second bobbin, so the second bat, I noticed, well, am I spinning clockwise? I for a moment feared I might have just changed directions mid-bobbin, or that I had 2 bobbins that were spun the complete opposite direction, but that was not the case. I spun both bobbins in a clockwise, thus Z-twist direction, which a lot of you might think is not weird, were it not that I actually do it the opposite way around mostly. I spin my yarns. I thought you weren't going to misbehave anymore. Christine, what the? Interrupting me like that? Anyway, as I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by a misbehaving spinning wheel, mostly I spin my yarns counterclockwise, so S-twist, and then ply them Z-twist, because I knit in a eastern uncrossed direction, which means the stitches are lined up on my needles on the opposite way that most knitters' stitches are. And if I knit with a S-twist C-spun yarn, then my yarn kind of untwists itself. So I do it the other way around and my yarn stays nicely put. Somehow, subconsciously, I have spun this yarn not as a yarn I would spin for myself. And it is also not a yarn that I am spinning for myself. What has happened? Was it maybe some archaic atavistic remnant of the time where I did spin my yarns like that because I didn't know what effect the twist had on my knitting? Was I thinking too much about other things, death for example? Anyway, as this yarn is, oh no, now we have to go this way. As this yarn is not for me, and I don't even know if the owners knit or crochet, maybe the default yarn is a good way to go. That's crooked as hoop. Here we have our first memorial skein of the zwartbles sheep Vic. First memorial skein, because of course 100 grams is not enough to remember the legacy, the absolute gorgeous fleece that this sheep produced. So of course, naturally, behind the scenes, I will continue spinning the rest of the bats that I carded so I can give a couple more skeins to the owners of Vic. I also feel that would be a more adequate quote-unquote payment to give to them, because I have been receiving Vic's and Miike's fleece for free for 2 years now. I know I have been canonically known as a zwartbles hype master extraordinaire, but let me tell you, that was after only having experienced zwartbles in a worsted manner, so combed and spun with a short forward draft. This is a complete new level of zwartbles that I have unlocked. Oh my God. Damn it, Vic. What a next to skin soft skein. I want to entirely clothe myself in this. In that sense, I am a little bit sad that I will be giving the resulting skeins away, but I've got more zwartbles. I've got more zwartbles. I need to spin more zwartbles. That is for sure. I need to spin more zwartbles. I need to card more zwartbles and spin more zwartbles in a woolen manner. As I said, I will spin more for the owners. I am, however, cutting the video short here after one skein so that you could see one skein, but I also could have this video out somewhere in the vicinity of All Saints and All Hallows Day, because that was the theme, you know, remembrance of the dearly beloved that have passed. Personally, having something physical from the dearly beloved that has passed is something that helps me in my mourning process. You see that pile of magazines over there? Those are some physical things I can remember my grandmom by, and I hope this skein will do the same for the owners of Vic. Something to remember him by, to look at and think of happy memories from when the sheep was still alive and probably frolicking around in their backyard. And thank you, Vic, for your contribution to this world in the shape of absolutely gorgeous fleece and accompaniment to your owners being a friend to Mieke. I hope that the pastures in the sheep heaven are green, tasty, juicy, and everything you want. And I hope I did this quite serious topic a little bit justice and wasn't all too chaotic and silly. Or maybe being chaotic and silly about death is just what we need. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. And then otherwise, if you like these kind of Irish shenanigans, then maybe you could like, comment or subscribe, but of course that is all up to you. And as for me, I will see you in a next video. But before we do that, maybe here is some more spinning shenanigans. Bye!